As
Yeah.
far as what you were talking about with the obliterations, we use a different machine called the Video Spectral Comparator, or VSC. And what's important about that, there's two things. Is the first, this is also a non-destructive test. So what's important to know about the VSC is first that it's non-destructive. It won't do anything to permanently alter the evidence. And the second is that the VSC can only be used to look for paper and ink differences. So ink will react one of three ways under the different light sources that we have with the VSC. It will reflect, which means it looks basically just like ink on paper. It will luminesce, so basically it'll start to glow. Or it will become transparent. So if you turn up the power on the VSC, it'll look like the ink is disappearing from the page. But if two inks react the same under the light sources, that does not mean that those are the same inks. In order to find out sameness of ink, you have to get into the ink chemistry. So we can only look for differences.
This is a VSC. It's a Video Spectral Comparator. And I'm not going to go through, a comprehensive description, but basically one of the things that this device helps us to do is to differentiate writing inks. And that can be effective if you're trying to determine if two inks that looks the same to the naked eye are in fact different. Like, for instance, if you have a body of writing where you suspect something was added, the writing ink looks the same, but you want to examine it to determine that that is the case, you may be able to differentiate the writing inks. Or in instances like the example that I'm going to show you, where you have obliterated writing. So in this particular instance, we have an example showing the two different writing instruments that were used, Pilot Varsity and a big soft field black ballpoint pen, and an obliterated section of writing to the left. And the black ballpoint pen was used to create the obliterations. So under normal lighting, it's going to be virtually impossible to see what exists or what was written underneath with the second writing instrument. But if we add a little bit of ultraviolet lighting, we'll be able to make a determination very easily as to what's underneath.
Oh my.
And
oh wow. So it's completely pretty much erasing that felt soft point one, right?
Right. So what's happening here is the Pilot Varsity pen is luminescing, like it's shining like a neon light. And the Bic pen, the black ballpoint pen, under these lighting conditions becomes transparent. In other words, it on the screen, it disappears from view. It's probably not possible to see over this, with this camera, but very, very faintly, you can actually see the Bic pen, or at least the indentations of the Bic pen.
Barely can, which is perfect for this example.
It's just a characteristic of physics that that allows us to do that. Nothing confusing, nothing unusual, but it can provide really important evidence in certain instances, particularly in instances involving altered documents.
Okay, that's cool as hell. I won't lie to you. So, so you said that the VSC did three things, and could you go over them three things again, and then just
well, it does a lot more than
what we just see.
As far as the inks.
Oh yeah,
sorry.
Right.
Yeah.
So inks typically will react in one of three ways. They will remain reflective, meaning basically they stay the same. They stay
like nothing would have happened when you put the UV on them.
They may become transparent, meaning visually the ink disappears from view.
And it should be noted that it's not actually disappearing off the page. It just looks like that with the light sources in the VSC.
Because of the reflection and the type of light that's alternate lighting sources being used. And the third is luminesce. So in this particular instance, the Pilot pen luminesce, that shine like a neon light. And when you have those two extremes, oftentimes it's very easy to see, for instance, even under a significant obliteration, what's written underneath. Now, the question that's often asked is, well, what if you have the writing and then it's obliterated with the same ink? Well, then you can't do anything.
Yeah, well, yeah, you're, SOL. Gotcha. That was crazy. That was very cool. So the soft field one was that the one that was transparent, while the
No,
the one on top?
yeah, right. The black ballpoint soft field Bic pen was the one that became transparent, disappeared from view, and the pilot pen luminesced.
Right.
And those are just examples of two writing inks.
Right.
What's interesting though is sometimes inks can exhibit multiple reactions. So maybe under one strength of the VSC, it'll be reflective, and then if you increase it, it can become transparent or luminesce. So just because it's reacting one way under a certain strength or a certain filter doesn't mean that's the only way it's going to react. So it's important as we're going through and testing it that we're taking pictures on the VSC of every reaction that we get. So say we're trying to see if two inks react the same on the document. We can go through all the different levels, and while they may react the same for parts of it, they may react differently under the different powers and filters of the VSC.
And then there's nothing magic about it. It's basic, straightforward physics and the reaction of light to substrates. The thing about the VSC is it's a self-contained unit that gives us all of these lights and all of these different filters in one unit to allow us to go through this progression of examinations and to determine whether or not inks can be differentiated. And it works quite similar with paper. So like in an instance where you suspect that a contract, a 10-page contract, page 5 was inserted, the pages have no watermarks, so no identifying manufacturer features, but each of 9 of those pages reacts by a very, very strong luminescence. The 5th page doesn't do that. Well, you can say that the 5th page was not part of that original group of paper.
Right.